Have you ever been sitting quietly on the couch, maybe scrolling through your phone after a long day, when suddenly your cat walks over, looks straight at you, and gently places a paw on your arm? Most people smile at that moment and think one simple thing: that's cute. But here's what most cat owners never stop to consider. That tiny gesture might actually be your cat trying to tell you something. Not randomly, not accidentally, but deliberately. In fact, many experts who study cat behavior and feline communication say that small, controlled touches like this can be a form of intentional signaling. Unlike dogs, who often communicate loudly by barking or whining, cats tend to communicate in subtle ways that are easy to miss. A soft paw on your hand might look insignificant, but in the world of cat psychology, gestures like this can carry meaning. It can be a request, a signal of comfort, or even a small moment of trust. And if you think about it, the way your cat does it is surprisingly controlled. They don't shove you or scratch. They simply tap, almost like saying, "Hey, I'm here." And once you start noticing this pattern, you'll realize something fascinating. Cats don't place their paw on everyone. They choose very carefully who they touch like that. Which raises an interesting question. If your cat does this to you, what exactly are they trying to say? Because sometimes that little paw means something far simpler than you might think. Now, here's the first reason many cats place their paw on you. And it's surprisingly simple. Sometimes your cat wants something, but they refuse to beg for it. Think about how different cats communicate compared to dogs. A dog that wants attention might bark, whine, or push their nose directly into your hand. Dogs tend to make their requests loud and obvious. Cats, however, usually take a completely different approach. They prefer something quieter, more controlled, almost polite. Instead of making noise, they tap. Maybe you've experienced this exact moment before. You're sitting at the kitchen table finishing dinner. Your cat walks over slowly, sits beside you, watches for a few seconds, and then places one paw gently on your arm. Not scratching, not grabbing, just resting it there. That soft touch is often the feline version of saying, "Excuse me, I need something." It might be food, a treat, the door opened, or simply a little attention. Animal behavior researchers often describe this kind of contact as a low-pressure communication signal. In other words, your cat is asking without demanding. And here's what makes this detail fascinating. Cats usually use this type of calm signal with people they trust to respond. They believe you'll notice the request without them having to escalate into louder behaviors like constant meowing or knocking things off the counter. That tiny paw isn't random, it's intentional communication. But the moment gets even more interesting when you realize something else. Because sometimes when your cat touches you like that, they aren't asking for anything at all. Now here's something many cat owners never realize. Sometimes when your cat places their paw on you, they may actually be marking you. Not in an aggressive way, and not in the way people usually imagine when they think about territorial behavior. Cats don't always need to spray or rub their faces on something to leave a scent. They have scent glands in several parts of their body, including their cheeks, their tail base, and even in the soft pads of their paws. That means when your cat gently presses their paw against your arm, your leg, or even your face, they might be leaving behind extremely subtle chemical signals that other animals can detect. To us, it feels like a simple touch. But in the world of cat behavior and feline communication, scent is one of the most powerful ways animals recognize what belongs to their social group. In other words, your cat might be quietly saying something like, "This human is part of my territory. And before that sounds too possessive, it's actually a sign of comfort and attachment. Cats typically mark the things that make them feel safe: their favorite blanket, the corner of the couch they always sleep on, the scratching post they use every day. These are objects connected to familiarity and security. So when your cat places their paw on you and lingers there for a moment, it can sometimes mean you've been added to that same mental map of safety. You're not just the person who feeds them, you're part of their world. But here's where things take an even more surprising turn. Because sometimes when a cat reaches out with their paw, they're not claiming you. They're checking on you. Now, this next reason might sound a little strange at first. But once you notice it, it starts to make a lot of sense. Sometimes when your cat places a paw on you, they may actually be checking on you. Think about the moments when this usually happens. Maybe you've fallen asleep on the couch late at night. The TV is still on. The room is quiet. And you haven't moved for several minutes. Suddenly you feel it, a small paw pressing lightly against your chest or your cheek. Many people assume their cat is just being annoying or trying to wake them up for food. But from the cat's perspective, something unusual might be happening. Cats are extremely sensitive to movement, breathing patterns, and tiny changes in body language. In the wild, animals rely on these signals constantly to determine whether another creature is active, asleep, injured, or even dead. When you're lying perfectly still for a long time, those normal signals disappear. No talking, no shifting, no movement. So your cat investigates. That gentle paw on your chest may simply be feeling for the rise and fall of your breathing. A light tap on your face may be a way to trigger any reaction at all. Researchers studying cat psychology and feline social behavior sometimes describe this as a form of social checking, an instinctive way animals monitor the condition of individuals they're bonded to. And interestingly, cats rarely do this with strangers. They usually do it with the person they trust the most in the room. But the real reason cats use their paws so often in communication actually goes back much further, all the way to the earliest days of their lives. To really understand why cats use their paws this way, we need to go back to the very beginning of their lives, long before they ever met you. When a kitten is born, it enters the world completely helpless. For the first few weeks, it relies entirely on its mother for warmth, protection, and food. And during that time, kittens perform a small, repetitive motion with their paws while nursing. They press their paws rhythmically against their mother's belly. This behavior is called kneading, and it serves two purposes. Physically, it helps stimulate the flow of milk. But emotionally, it does something even more important. It creates one of the earliest associations of comfort and safety in a kitten's brain. Warmth, food, and protection all happen in the same moment. Over time, the kitten grows up, becomes independent, and no longer needs to nurse. But that emotional imprint doesn't completely disappear. Many researchers who study cat behavior and feline development believe kneading becomes what's known as a self-soothing behavior, a motion tied to relaxation and security. So when your adult cat gently presses a paw against you, even if it's only for a second, they may be tapping into that same ancient memory. In a strange but beautiful way, your presence has taken the place of the safety their mother once provided. That's why some cats touch you with their paw and then immediately curl up beside you, close their eyes, and fall asleep. The contact itself helps their nervous system relax. But there's another moment when cats often reach out with a paw and it happens right when you're about to leave. There's another moment when cats place their paw on you that many owners eventually notice but rarely understand. It often happens right before you stand up. Maybe you're relaxing on the couch watching TV. Maybe you're scrolling on your phone after dinner. And just as you shift your weight slightly, preparing to get up, your cat reaches out and places a paw on your arm or your leg. At first it feels random, but if you watch closely, you'll start seeing a pattern. Cats are incredibly skilled at reading human body language. Long before you consciously decide to stand, your body already begins to signal the movement. A small shift in posture, a tightening in your leg muscles, a slight change in breathing. To another human, these signals might be invisible. But to a cat, an animal that evolved by constantly scanning its environment, those tiny movements stand out immediately. Your cat knows you're about to leave the couch, the bed, or the room. And in that moment, that gentle paw touch can mean something very simple. Stay a little longer. It's not dramatic. It's not loud. Cats rarely express their attachment in obvious ways. But this quiet gesture is sometimes their way of asking for just a little more time with you. And when a naturally independent animal reaches out like that, it says something important about the bond they feel. But there is one final reason a cat may place their paw on you, and it may be the most powerful one of all. Now we arrive at the final and perhaps most meaningful reason your cat places a paw on you. And to understand it, you have to think about the world from a cat's perspective. In the wild, survival for a small predator depends on one thing above almost everything else: speed and readiness. A cat must always be prepared to react instantly. Their balance, their reflexes, and their ability to launch themselves in any direction within a fraction of a second are what keep them alive. That's why most of the time, when a cat is alert, all four paws stay firmly on the ground. It allows them to spring, run, or defend themselves without hesitation. But when a cat slowly lifts one paw and rests it on you, something subtle changes. For that moment, they are no longer in full defensive readiness. One paw is no longer supporting their body. One paw is no longer prepared to push off the ground. From a purely instinctive standpoint, that small shift makes them slightly more vulnerable. And animals built for survival rarely give up even a small advantage unless they feel completely safe. Researchers who study cat psychology and feline trust behavior often describe moments like this as a form of relaxed social contact. The cat's body is loose. Their muscles are calm. Their breathing is steady. They're not preparing to run. They're choosing connection instead. And that quiet decision carries meaning, because in that moment, your cat isn't thinking about danger. They're thinking about you. So the next time your cat walks over, looks at you for a moment, and gently places their paw on your arm, you might see that moment a little differently. At first glance, it's easy to dismiss it as a random habit or a cute little gesture. But as we've seen, that tiny touch can carry many layers of meaning inside the world of cat behavior and feline communication. Sometimes it's simply a polite request, a quiet way of saying, "I need something." Other times it may be a subtle form of scent marking, a way your cat adds you to the safe and familiar territory they recognize as their world. In certain moments, it can even be a quick check, making sure you're still moving, breathing, and okay. And in other cases, it may be tied to a memory that reaches all the way back to kittenhood, when comfort and safety were connected to the gentle pressure of tiny paws. But perhaps the most meaningful explanation is the simplest one. When your cat calmly rests a paw on you and stays there, they're showing that they feel safe enough to relax in your presence. For an animal built on instinct and caution, that kind of trust is never given lightly. It grows slowly, through routine, familiarity, and countless quiet moments shared together. So when that little paw appears again someday, resting softly on your hand or your shoulder, remember this. In your cat's language, it may be one of the clearest ways they know how to say, "You're part of my world."